Hey, what's up guys, and today we're going to be talking about the Canon RF 35mm f1.8 macro. Right, first let's talk about the size and weight of this thing. It's very small and it fits on your camera perfectly. I think it's one of the lightest RF lenses that you can get on the Canon RF system, and it doesn't stick out anything and it fits on the camera really nice and compact. The size of it's very light compared to the other lenses that I've used, such as the 70-200, and that's mainly because of it's a prime lens, so it doesn't zoom in or anything, so it's only just got that one fixed focal length. It fits into my camera bag so nicely, right tucked away in its own area. It doesn't add any additional weight to my bag when I carry it around, and I always have it with me if I need it. It's very similar to the Canon 50mm 1.8. It's a lot bigger than it. I think it's about double in size. However, there's two major features that this has and the 50mm doesn't have. So if you're kind of wondering which one to go for, the 50mm or the 35mm 1.8 like I was, these two features could decide whether you're going to buy this lens or the 50mm 1.8. Is that it has image stabilization, so it's very good for video and is why it's one of my go-to lenses for video. And another reason why is because it has a macro mode. It's not true macro, I think it's 1:2, so it's not true 1:1. However, it still allows you to get really up close and personal with your subjects. And it's also another reason why I use it for video, because I do a lot of product videos, especially for a lot of these YouTube videos. So I like to get really up close and get into the details of what I'm shooting. And obviously the macro mode's not just for that, it's also for getting macro shots such as insects and flowers. It's really good at getting up close and into them details. It's not quite the same as like if you're using a proper macro lens such as the Canon 100mm macro lens, because you've not got that long telephoto reach on it to get that compression, and people might think the 35mm macro is a little bit weird compared to the 100mm, but as you can see in some of these images here, I've got some real stunning shots with the macro capabilities of this thing with some flowers, and I think they are very good considering it's built into this lens at £500. It opens up so widely at f1.8, which is another reason why I use it for video and for photo. For that f1.8, it really does separate the subject from the background and gives it that real nice bokeh, which is why you can get some real top quality images and videos out of this lens, and this is why one of my go-to lenses for both photo and video. And here's some pet portraits that I've got with my cats in my back garden as well. It really separates the cats from the background. It's also really good for like full body portraits. It's good for street photography. It's good for landscapes. It's not too telephoto-y to get them landscapes. It's got a nice little wide angle to it as well you can find in your compositions, but it is super nice to get in for that landscapes because it doesn't compress the image too much. And here's some of the photos that I have with it now through my landscapes. This lens is also really good in low light situations because it opens up to f1.8, so you don't have to up that ISO too much if you want to get night shots, if you want to get night portraits, if you want to do any videos at night. It's really helpful as well. It's an all-round amazing lens, and I really do think that you should check this out because you can do so much stuff with this lens. It's got the manual focus ring here, and it also has the control ring that's new to the Canon RF lenses, that you can make this the ISO, the shutter speed or the aperture. It's entirely up to you, and it has this as well. You've got the manual focus and autofocus switches here, and then there's your image stabilization switch on and off there. It's got a metal lens mount, so it's really nice and secure. However, this is not weather sealed, so don't go out in the rain or anything with it. I mean, you can if you want, but I would suggest that to keep away from any rain or bad weathers. And it's built quite really nice, and it's nice in the hand. The focus ring's very nice to turn, and so is the control ring, so I think it's very nicely built. Now, as I touched on earlier, that image stabilization is really good for video, especially when you partner it up with a gimbal such as the DJI Ronin RSC2, and that's the gimbal that I use. I use this lens for a lot of my B-roll. I put it on the gimbal, and with the image stabilization together, you can get real smooth shots. I record all my product videos with it as well for this YouTube channel, and I shoot a lot of my product photography with this lens as well. I pretty much use this lens for everything. It's an all-round beast. That 35mm focal length is a real good focal length for pretty much everything. And it's also good for that macro mode because you're going to need to let a lot of light in, because when you shoot macro such as flowers, you want to get quite a lot of stuff in focus as you can, which makes the image go really dark, which is why you're going to need to use a tripod so you can lower that shutter speed to bring in the light that way, and that's why the image stabilization is really good for that as well. I've got some stunning images with this lens through portraits of my cats, landscapes, everything like that really. I've used it so much and it's one of my go-to lenses whenever I want to go out and shoot. There's not many cons to this thing. The only thing I say is the weather sealing's not very good, and focusing, it's fast at focusing. However, it's very loud when you do focus in photo mode. But when you turn it into video mode, it quietens down so much and you can't really hear it that much, which is good. But when it does focus, the top end of the lens comes out to about there, and that's why it's loud, because it goes in and out, especially for photos. But apart from them two major cons, I can't really think of another reason why you wouldn't pick up this thing, especially at the price it's at compared to other RF lenses. And personally, I think every Canon RF shooter should own this lens and be using it for video, photos, everything, because it's such an amazing lens. You can get really good, sharp results out of this thing. Now, I mentioned the price earlier. It's about £500. I got mine off the Canon store, brand new, and compared to the Canon RF 50mm 1.8, it's about £300 difference. So I suggest, if you're not interested in the macro mode or the image stabilization mode, then I suggest you go for the 50mm 1.8. 35mm and 50mm, they are a lot different in focal length. You do get different results, the difference of that focal length. However, £300, if you're not interested in the macro and the video capabilities of this thing, I suggest you go for the 50mm, and that's actually why I went for this instead of the 50mm, because I like the image stabilization in it and I like the macro mode to try and test that out, and I've had a lot of fun with it as well. So my final verdict, I highly recommend this lens to every photographer who shoots the Canon R system, apart from those who are completely not interested in macro and are not that interested in video because of that image stabilization. Then I suggest you just go and get the Canon 50mm 1.8 and put that £300 towards a different lens. But yeah, if you shoot portraits, I highly recommend getting this. It opens up to 1.8. You can get a nice full body shot with a little bit of the background in to show off the scenery, and it's also really good for some landscapes. It's good for street photography, and it's good for all video work. But obviously it's up to you, so you decide whether you should get the 35mm from Canon or not. Leave a comment in the description below. I really want to know your thoughts on this lens. If you have it, if you're thinking of getting it, I really do want to know. If you have decided you want it and you want to go check it out, the link is in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it so much. If you did enjoy, hit that like button and subscribe to see more, and I'll see you guys on the next video. See you later.